Council will call the meeting to order. For the record, it is April 2nd, 2024 at 4:33 p.m. We'll begin this afternoon's work session with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Cavanagh.
Here.
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
Here.
Councilman Taylor.
Here.
Councilman Overton.
Here.
Councilwoman Strader. Councilman Borton.
Here.
Mayor Simison.
Here. Next up is adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Borton.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Strader.
I move that we adopt the agenda as published.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as published. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. First up is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Strader.
at the consent agenda, I move that we approve the consent agenda for the mayor to sign and clerk to attest.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is agreed to. There are no items moved from the consent agenda, so we'll move on to Department Commission reports. Item 7, Railwood Trail Pathway Project Update and Funding Requests. We will turn this over to Ms. Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council people. May I commend you on your quick transition? I am here with a relatively straightforward question, but I would like to walk you through a bit of history on the Railwood Trail Pathway. So I'd like to provide an update, and I will try to abridge this so it's not, so we don't get bogged down in it. But I know we have new faces, and this project's been going on a while. So I appreciate your attention. So as a reminder, the Railwood Trail is a plan for a multi-use pathway adjacent to the rail line, south of Broadway and just west of City Hall, between about 3rd Street and 8th Street. We have had an easement to complete all of the pathways shown in the kind of pinkish red line, except for those 2 properties that are highlighted at the end. FOCAF, which is Friends of Children and Family, it's our local Head Start program. And then the orange property, more about that in a minute. So we've been working on completing the right-of-way, but as of now, we still don't have access to Northwest 3rd Street. So the Friends of Children and Family property, behind their fence line, this is kind of labeled where the pathway would go. We would pipe the lateral. There's a section of property, a linear piece of land that we would really like to be able to build our pathway on. It's not usable by the Friends of Children and Family. They have kids in the play yard there. Really the only uses that can occur on this property are, maybe utilities or pathways. So it's valuable to us. We approached, and again, the white property, we approached FOCAF and said, could we just buy an easement from you? And for our pathway, they were not opposed, but they were also not able to sell us one. They had to do with being a federal organization and just not wanting to encumber the property. It was complicated. But they said we might be able to trade property. And so, again, just seeking to get that access out to 3rd Street. We did purchase a property, the city did. That was one of the times we came to you and asked for guidance on this project. What if we purchase this lot? That gives us access onto 3rd, and it gives us a parcel to trade with the neighbor to the west. That way we complete the right-of-way for the trail. And it's a benefit for the Head Start organization because they get some access onto 3rd Street. And then, we get this pathway project. We were needing to wait until the end of 2023. They had some bonds funding that project that matured. And so this was what the land trade looked like. I won't go into all the details, but we had purchased the property in green, and we were looking to do a property boundary adjustment again, so the city could have a linear parcel for a pathway And then there's that L-shaped piece that would result for FOCAF to have access and just a little more room on their parcel. And then most recently, when we came to you, our question was, we'd like to trade this property, but we'd had some appraisals done, and property behind a fence that's encumbered by irrigation easements isn't really valuable in terms of market value. It's something we really do find value in, but it didn't appraise as high as the parcel that the city was trading. So there was a bit of an inequity there. And our proposal was maybe we trade equal areas. So properties of approximately the same size, because the value, whatever it is, on the market is really valuable to the city for this project. So we were moving forward with that trade option. And I'll just back up a little bit and talk about Friends of Children and Families. I don't know how much you know. They are early childhood education and care. And we have partnered with them for a long time, especially on the Holiday Classic volleyball tournament Parks and Rec puts on. My neighbor over the cubicle, Maggie, runs this volleyball tournament around Thanksgiving every year, and they earn several $1,000s worth of proceeds that then we have volunteers shop for Christmas lists that are provided by kids from the Boys and Girls Club and from the Head Start programs. So volunteers shop, we wrap the presents, they get delivered. It's been going on for 14 years. They're doing good things in the community. They're a good partner. They've been very patient with us because we've been back to visit them about every year and just kind of working on this trade. So we like the idea that it's advantageous to them. It's advantageous to us. We talked about sharing parking on that parcel. So it's 2024. And the bonds are mature, and we enter the due diligence phase of the project and start looking specifically at what's needed, pull some title reports. And in one of the title reports, there's a mention, if you want to look at the property that's highlighted in yellow, there's a mention, and Kurt Starman, one of our city attorneys, has a real eagle eye, and it was just a hint of a mention, but it got us looking. It referenced some land on the south side of those properties that had been deeded to the Bureau of Reclamation. So we did some research. We consulted the title companies, Ada County. It was a bit of what they call a hole in the map. The taxable properties are very well documented, but this was all non-taxable, and so it was assumed that it was railroad property. And it was quite hard to find out who actually did own it. But if it's Bureau of Reclamation land, there was a kind of en masse deed of several easements to Nampa and Meridian several years ago. So if it's Nampa and Meridian who is owning and managing the parcel, we can go across it. And that was kind of exciting news because we might not need to do the land trade, which was doable, but also kind of complex. So here was here's kind of a quick overview of the proposed alternate alignment where we could use that irrigation easement in the crosshatched area and skirt the FOCAF parcels, not need to do a trade, and maybe just keep that parcel on 3rd Street. It would require us to pipe just a little bit of the 9-mile drain, but otherwise, we'd be free to go ahead without needing to do the land trade. And with some of the savings that we used on the land trade, maybe that could be applied to some trailhead development. We talked, we don't owe FOCAF anything, but they are a good partner, and we've been talking to them for years about shared parking. And so we'd like to possibly honor the spirit of kind of the agreement we look to make, and discuss that. And I believe in the community center in Kleiner Park, was that the one, Mike? There's an agreement that they pay the city some money annually to help maintain parking. Anyway, so we're looking at some kind of a possible sharing of parking, and they could make a future improvement to their site to pass through if they want it. There's still a few questions and considerations we need to get through. We think, we're in a pretty good position, but But we do need some additional funding for the project. And part of that is, it's just been many years since the funds were, these are funds that Compass administers, but it's federal funding, the transportation, the TAP TMA funding. So we've had that, and because it's been several years, just like our property appreciated, costs of construction have risen. And so our LTAC project manager advised us to ask for some more money. I think it would be available for us to request additional funding to complete construction of the entire scope of the project. But with that additional funding, the city has a required match of, it's about 7.5%. It's a little less than that, but we're kind of keeping numbers fairly round. So it would obligate us. If we were to accept additional funds, we would need to provide that additional match. We aren't asking for a budget amendment because we have money in that account to build this project or to build it and then get reimbursed for it. So at this point, we're just curious to know if, we'd like to request funding, we need the mayor's official ask, and we need your direction or permission for the mayor to sign that letter, pardon me, if in fact that's the direction you'd like to go in support of this project. So are there questions that I could stand for or
Council
clarify?
questions, comments, feedback?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
can you refresh my memory? How much have we spent on this project to date? Is it the 70,000 that's, or I guess 38,000 that was listed in the city portion? I seem to feel like that we've spent more than that on kind of the totality of this kind of conceptual project.
We have, Mike, I might need help with this because it was a while ago. We have spent some on some preliminary concepts. I think I'm going to have Mike answer that. I came into this just
Yeah.
as I was starting my position, and you probably have a better handle on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Mr. Mayor, Councilman Cavanagh, great question. So about 6 years ago, we budgeted $500,000 for this project from the general fund. We thought that we needed the entire amount because at that time, the rules were that we would build the project, pay everything, and then be reimbursed. The rules have changed now where it's more of a revolving type situation where you can, as pay applications come in, you can pay those bills and then submit for reimbursement right away. So then that money goes back into our budget. So far to date, we had that original 500,000. We've spent about 34,000 on it for some preliminary design, some fit plans. These were done maybe 5 years ago, but the current amount that we have in our budget for this project is about 474,000.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Taylor.
Kim, thanks for the presentation. It was good to kind of put all the pieces together. I did have a question. With the status for what we're being asked to approve, are we required to submit another application for an additional federal grant? Or is this sort of like an extension on the current grant that you've already received?
Councilman Taylor, that's a great question, Mr. Mayor. We initially thought we did need to submit a separate application, but then determined with Compass that it's really just an additional request kind of under the same terms. So no, we don't have to fill out a whole new application. They think the money is available. We just would need to formally ask for it in order to get it. And I think in part because we're tacking it onto this project. It's not a new project. It's just to complete it.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Schrader.
Just to thank you, Kim. Fantastic presentation, and I thought it was all pretty straightforward. But a question I had, if something changes with Compass and that federal funding extension or additional federal funding were to not come through, I assume at that point, you all would be back in front of council to discuss, right? I just want to make sure I'm kind of on the same page about how you're going about it, because you're not asking for a budget amendment, right?
Correct.
Because you already have an amount budgeted that has covered the work done so far. The project was approved a while ago, but the cost has doubled, so it is a real concern. Is there any chance of Compass not awarding this or things changing? What have been your conversations with them? Is it a competitive situation where we're competing with others for the dollars, or?
No, Councilperson Strader, Mr. Mayor. The money that was awarded to this project originally has been, they kind of have their balancing sheets and they move it around. But as I understand it, it is identified and dedicated to these projects. So I haven't had those conversations because I haven't had there hasn't been any intimation that it wouldn't be available. I mean, I suppose that might be a possibility, but it's been presented to us as, this is available. We can schedule it for your project for 2025. So, there previously, we talked about an alternative of simply building the project ourselves. It can cost more money to build with federal dollars because you're building to federal standards. It's also a lot of money that it's a small match relative to what we're getting. So I guess there are, pluses and minuses to both. But I suppose nothing is guaranteed, but I haven't worried that it wouldn't be available because the money that we've been trying to spend has been there for years.
Mr. Mayor?
Maybe we could have Mr. Hood come up and, Kim is not our Compass
No, I'm not.
knower of things. So, Mr. Hood,
Yeah, Mayor, members of council, it is competitive, although I will say this project is further along than some of the other projects that may be competing for some of these. And at Compass, they typically will fund cost overruns for projects that are already in design and going into construction. So when you're this far along, it is scored better. So again, like Kim, I can't guarantee that we'll get that match from Compass, 7.34%. But we're in really good shape. Hopefully that helps.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Schrader.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And I assume that part of the process would be, once this letter is sent, you'll get a response from Compass. You'll inform the council of the response. If things change or this goes a different direction, we'll all have a discussion. So I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I can just, the obligation then, the city's match, then what, if we aren't successful, there will have to be another conversation because obviously our skin in the game won't cover the cost of this project, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Taylor.
Caleb, just a quick question. To clarify, is this grant something that Compass will apply on our behalf, or is it part of a larger grant wherein other communities that are under the Compass sort of footprint are also receiving part of it? So I'm trying to decide, is it the federal government that's deciding if we receive this new additional request, or is it Compass that's deciding if we get the
Yeah.
money?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Taylor. It is Compass's resources, although it does come through the federal government. So the TAP TMA program is our region. So it is, again, competitive against just our internal other cities and the like. But it is awarded through Compass. So we are really Compass. It's a scoring committee of Compass and through their board that gets to choose essentially, depending on how much money's in the pot, they then allocate through the federal government. At the end of the day, the money does come from the feds, but it is, again, allocated through local resources, if that makes sense.
And maybe just to put some perspective on this, this has been in the budget for a plan for Compass for years, and because of the delays, the funds have been moving around. The board could have at any point in time, or the staff said, we're not going to do it, and removed it, but they've not chosen to take that path. So will assume that they are committed to continue the funding through this process. But yes, if anything changes, we won't move forward.
or find the funding for that, right? I mean, they may have some identified funding sources now, but help us continue to look for other sources that can complete this project. Thanks to phase.
Maybe back to Kim. So you're off the hook for now.
Thanks, Caleb.
Thanks.
Okay, Kim, I guess just maybe if council was to say, no, don't send the letter, what would be our option at this point in time?
Our option, let me just add one thing, and that is we're not guaranteed the funding, but we have been in close contact with Compass, and we're sort of led to believe that it would be available.
I guess
So
let's just assume we stay with 500,000. Don't get any additional.
We don't get
funds,
it.
Or council says, no, we don't really like this alignment. Stay with Plan 1. Can we still do Plan 1? Or is this the route that we need to go in order to accomplish the outcome we want to accomplish?
we could do it locally, but we would, or, with city funds, we'd probably need more.
Hey,
Does
I
that
guess I'm
answer your
saying,
question?
even the alignment, can we do this without going into the alignment change? I don't know if that's cheaper than, is that more expensive to do the alignment on the outside or less if you were to stay with your current? Because the original plans didn't have this as a trailhead, or did it?
There was some parking. Trailhead amenities would be covered by that funding, so it would be minor, but kind of need to do some treatment at the edge of the street and green the property or claim it. So yes, that's kind of been added in, but to a minor degree. We don't have a project without those two parcels. We would need to just probably, if it was a no-go, we would give back the money and decide if it was a local priority. But theoretically, we could complete the work under a different funding source.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman
Schrader.
Schrader, thank.
All good. A lot of cake, a lot of emotions flying around. Thank you, Kim. I personally feel like this is still a great project. It made good sense years ago when we started the process. I think it still makes sense. I'm a little bit concerned about the cost, kind of the magnitude of the cost is exploding. I'm appreciative of these potential dollars from Compass. I hope that comes through. If it doesn't, I think we will have to really have a conversation, but unless, I don't know if anyone has a different feeling, but I'm happy to make a motion. Mr. Mayor, I move that we move forward on the Rail with Trail project request with Compass.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to authorize the mayor to send a letter to Compass requesting, providing the additional funds for the revised project. Is there further discussion? No, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and I will sign a letter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
Right.
Council.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye, Councilman Borton. It's an honor, your honor.
Sure.
Ominous. Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Borton.
I move we adjourn the work session.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.
It's in there. It's in there blowing up.
Council will call this meeting to order. For the record, it is April 2nd, 2024 at 6:01 PM. We'll begin this evening city council regular meeting with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Cavanagh.
Here.
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
Here.
Councilman Taylor.
Here.
Councilman Overton.
Here.
Councilwoman Strader. Councilman Borton.
Here.
Mayor Simmons.
Here. If you'd all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item up is the community invocation, which tonight will be delivered by Henry Boyd of 10 Mile Christian Church. If you would all please join us in the community invocation or take this as a moment of silence and reflection. Pastor?
Pray as the Lord Jesus prayed. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Lord, would you remember us today as we remember you? And would you make the light of your face shine on this city and this council in this room? Or would you give them courage to be men and women of integrity and to lead as you led, always thinking of others over yourself? We pray these things and we give thanks today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, first item up is adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
I move that we adopt the agenda as published.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as published. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted as published. That's correct. We have anyone signed up under public forum?
Mr. Mayor, yes. Gina Johnson.
Okay. Gina, if you'd like to come forward, be recognized for 3 minutes.
Members of the city, my name is Gina Johnson. I represent the video gamers and the various charities as a charity board president. Today, I would like to discuss with you a proposal that would require further discussion for affordable housing. In this world today, we see a lot of need for housing development, but we're not always seeing unique style or themed opportunities that would allow us to change direction from what we see as the standard. My proposal is on behalf of my own organization, and we would like the city to consider some of the ideas that will be explained in this pamphlet I'll hand out, and it can be discussed at a further time. Those ideas include an IKEA. We have a way to get it in a non-traditional format. We have the ability to build up to 2,000 affordable tiny home units that have modular furniture. We have the ability to provide low-income rent for a lot of different charities, a one-stop government service shop for all the different cities, counties, state, and federal in one area. All of this is a really big project. It's not something simple that could be explained in 3 minutes. So I hope that this community, this council understands that you can't just look at housing as a one issue thing. You can't just look at nonprofit charity needs as a one issue thing. This year, I have attended the Idaho Educational Technology Association Conference, and I will be attending the Affordable Housing Conference here in April. Idaho Gives is coming around the corner. I would like the council to really consider what is its mission this summer during construction? Is it to stay with the standard or to look beyond and develop the new? Idaho has the opportunity, and Meridian can be the nexus point for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. With that, we'll move on to our first item for this evening, which is a proclamation for the Hawaii Boys Basketball State Champs. If I could have the team, coaches, Dr. Bub, Principal Rice all join at the podium, that'd be great. So council, you may remember last week when we did this for another state champion from another school, Meridian. I said I really liked the wrestling team better because they were a little bit more my height. So, but nonetheless, we're excited to be here again with the Hawaii High School, not just in basketball, but in other sports. It seems like this is becoming a reoccurring theme here in the city of Meridian. So we're excited to honor you today with a proclamation and celebrate your achievements here in the city of Meridian. So with that, I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, then turn it over to the coach. Then we'll just go ahead and have each player state their name, position, and year at school, so we can get that on the record for everybody, and we'll go from there. All right. Whereas being a Hawaii High School boys basketball players more than scoring points, making assists, grabbing rebounds, stealing the ball, and achieving state titles. It is training to build leadership, character, confidence, teamwork, and resilience, all traits needed to succeed on the court, in the classroom, and in the real world. And whereas the Hawaii High School has captured another 5A boys basketball team championship and brought home a second title for the third-year program. And whereas Hawaii finished the year 24-3 with a perfect conference record. And whereas the Hawaii Storm basketball team with an impressive 57-36 win in the 5A state championship game returned the state championship to Meridian. And whereas the leadership, training, and discipline of their coaches help all team members to focus their talents, passion, and determination to become a winning team, with each player making valuable contributions to their victory. Therefore, I, Mayor Robert E. Simonson, hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2024 as Hawaii High School Boys Basketball State Champions Day in the city of Meridian, and call upon the community to join me in congratulating the Hawaii High Storm on their remarkable athletic achievement and for representing Meridian so proudly in the state tournament, the second day of April, 2024. Congratulations, team.
Player's name, grade, position. All right, let's go sophomores first, Gavin.
Gavin Knowles, sophomore, forward.
Jordan Allen, sophomore guard.
In you go. Sorry.
Caden Rogers, freshman, Hawaii.
Forward.
This whole time?
Ryan Brecky, sophomore, forward.
Logan Hossfight, sophomore, guard.
Let's just go this way. Bodie, go.
Bodie Howell, junior guard.
Chase Allen, junior, guard.
Jackson Rasmussen, junior guard.
Jackson Rogers, junior, guard.
Cameron Downey, junior guard. Liam Campbell, senior shooting guard.
You want the coaches as well? Or? Yeah. Jacob, let's go. You guys.
Jacob Lukasik, coach.
Matthew Bombing, coach.
Andy Harrington, coach.
RC Nugent, coach.
Andy Harrington, head coach. Just really quickly, I want to say thank you to the city of Meridian, West Ada School District. I guess I need to lean in. Hawaii's been an amazing place to coach at. These kids have been phenomenal. Our support from West Ada and Meridian has been there from the beginning, and we're continuing to look forward to continue building Hawaii into a high-level basketball program. Really looking forward to coaching these guys again next year. We're really going to miss Liam. Everyone else standing here is back, so cannot wait for the future, and it's going to be very bright. So thank you.
As Mr. Mayor's making his way back to the podium, I know that Hawaii has a celebrity super fan in Mayor Chadwick, but it's always good to remind the public that Hawaii is a school that's in Meridian, not Star. And I think it's important that the record reflects that. And Meridian's proud of Hawaii, another great Meridian high school.
Well stated, Councilman Kavner. All right, if I could have Tracy Farnsworth and the team from ICOM come forward. And as they do, for many here, it's no secret that another great team that we have in Meridian is ICOM, which houses Idaho's only medical school. And so we're super excited to have them here for what they do to help prepare the needs for our community long-term. So it's really appropriate that we're here to honor you all today with the proclamation as well. So we'll go and do that and then turn it over to Dr. Farnsworth for any comments. So whereas more than 186,000 osteopathic physicians and osteopathic medical students bring their distinctive approach to providing healthcare for millions of patients across the U.S. And whereas DOs practice in every medical field specialty, combining medical expertise with a whole person approach centered on listening to and partnering with their patients. And whereas more than 11% of all physicians in the U.S. and more than 25% of all U.S. medical students are DOs who've chosen to practice osteopathic medicine and have made tremendous contributions to the American healthcare system. Whereas osteopathic medicine was founded by Andrew Taylor Still, MD, DO, more than 130 years ago, and Idaho's roughly 1,000 DOs are dedicated to improving the health of their communities through patient-centered care focused on treating the body, mind, and spirit. And whereas the city of Meridian is proud to have Idaho's first and only osteopathic medical school in our community. Therefore, I, Mayor Robert E. Simonson, do hereby proclaim April 15th through 21st, 2024 as National Osteopathic Medicine Week in the city of Meridian and encourage all citizens and community organizations to support this observance by helping to educate members of the public about DOs and osteopathic medicine today, the second day of April 2024. Congratulations.
Well, Mayor, thank you. We're all very proud Idahoans and very proud Meridianites. In fact, I want you to know that 4 of the 5 standing behind me are high school graduates from here in Meridian. 2 from Renaissance High School and 1 from Rocky Mountain. And one of our distinguished faculty graduated from Sentinel High School. So our feeling is athletes, and they're all athletes, all high school athletes. So athletes today and medical students, medical doctors tomorrow. And one day we'll be firemen even. If we can reach that height, that would be our, could I have them just briefly introduce themselves, Mayor? Could we do that, please?
Hi, my name is Nicole Jordan, and I am a second year at ICOM. And I attended Renaissance High School. And I was equestrian during high school, yes.
She was actually a Miss Idaho rodeo queen too. Don't forget that. I'm Theron Hawks. I'm an OMS2, went to Rocky Mountain and played basketball.
My name is Tanner Hill. I'm also a second year at ICOM, and like Nicole, I went to Renaissance High School as well.
I'm Dr. Justin Parkinson, so I'm one of the faculty, family medicine faculty physicians. And I grew up, and I'm the one who went to Centennial, which is technically Boise, I think, actually, but that's okay. I lived in the Meridian district. They just moved the boundaries on me back then.
Dr. Rodney Bates. I am primary care chair and associate professor of internal medicine. I practice internal medicine at St. Luke's Nampa. So great to be with all of you. Appreciate all of the dear students. They're wonderful in our hearts. So I grew up and graduated from another city that starts with M. Many of you probably don't know where that is, but it's Murtaugh. So Murtaugh High School grad. Played basketball and football.
All right, thank you, council. Moving on to item 3, which is a resolution number 24-2444. A resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Meridian appointing Terrence Green to seat 1, Jared Cosby to seat 2, and Marvin Ward to seat 7 of the Meridian Impact Fee Advisory Committee and providing an effective date. We have had some people who've stepped down from the Impact Fee Advisory Committee and had been working, and sorry, this one got lost in the shuffle with everything else. We thought we had done this a while back, but we've got 3 great people to come on in support of our impact fee conversation that range, which there are requirements for these positions, realtor being one of them. So Jared is the realtor in that context. Someone that is understanding fire. I don't think anyone could do that better than one of our rural fire commissioners in Marvin Ward. So have that connection between the city and our impact fees and what they provide, I think will be a great addition. And then Terrence Green, who's was looking for a way to get involved. He's got a strong financial banking background, and I think that he'll be a true asset to the Impact Fee Advisory Committee. So with that, I put this resolution before you for your consideration. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
3 fantastic applications. I know the council appreciates receiving all of the background on those folks. With that, I move that we approve resolution number 24-2444, appointing Terrence, Jared, and Marvin to the Meridian Impact Fee Advisory Committee.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 24-2444. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the resolution is agreed to. Council, we've reached item 4 on our agenda, which is City Council recognition of Councilman Joe Borton. Joe, would you like to make any comments first, or would you like the council to go first with anything that they would like to say? Okay, Joe's going to go last. So any takers on any comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Taylor.
I'll get the party started because I don't have years of experiences and stories to tell. I'll get it done quickly. I have months. But I want to share one story and then I'll be quiet. I met Joe officially last summer when I was visiting with a few members of council just to ask questions and to learn about the job a little bit. And at the end of the conversation, I asked him a question and his answer really stood out to me and I think about it a lot. I asked, do you have any advice? And without hesitation, he said, just fall in love with Meridian, the way he said it. And it was really interesting the way you said that. And you just said, just love your community, love the people you serve, but just fall in love with the city. That was it. Very simple, very direct to the point, but in such few words, I thought you conveyed a lot. And as I've watched you conduct yourself just in the short time we've been together, I've really admired what you've done. You've obviously had a big impact on the city. Even though our time has been short and I feel a little bit robbed of some good time and some good counsel, I still think the advice you gave me was very well received, very impactful, and it just says a lot about your character and what you think of the city. And so I really admire you for that. And I'm really grateful that you're willing to step into another role of service. That's the other thing I remember you talked a lot about, is this job's about service. And so I think there's a lot to admire about that and your example for all of us, you know, not just on the council, but in the city. So I really appreciate it and wish you the best of luck.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
I had to make notes and I've made them and torn them up. Joe and I had a parking lot conversation the other night, and I think I started crying then. Joe, my first question was, who will give the talk to new or returning councilmen after an election? When I was first on council, it was Keith Bird. Then this year, it was you. You were the perfect one to talk to us about, we may disagree, but we will never be disagreeable. You set the bar high because every day you live it. Your thoughtfulness and intention shows everything. It shows in everything that you do and say. The evening that you told us you'd been appointed 4th District Court, I took notes because I didn't take notes on, I took notes on what we were talking about, but I took notes on how you summarized the discussion points and focused so thoughtfully on what you saw making a difference in this community, not only this year, but next year, 10 years, and beyond. Your thoughtful summaries always acknowledge the hard work that all parties have contributed, even when you vote against the project. You are an encourager, always cheering others on, whether it's to run for city council or at city chamber softball games. You are always that encouragement. You are wise, which is one of the many, many reasons that you will make a great judge. But more often than not, you would rather help someone find their own voice than to voice or share yours. I have appreciated serving with you beyond what words can express, but more than that, I have had the years of appreciating your friendship. Congratulations, you will be an excellent judge. You embody every day those qualities that make a judge effective. We will miss you. When we ask, what would Joe do? And I did not know about the shirts that were coming today. The answer will always be process it thoughtfully, thoroughly, and with the future in mind. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Overton.
So, Joe, your influence on me goes back to when I worked for the city in the police department. And we looked to many council members back in the past for their assistance and guidance. And even when you weren't our liaison, you were always there to help us if we needed something. When I first came to the point of being on the council, you were one of the people I looked to the most because of your knowledge. And one of the things that I don't know that you fully understand is when people come onto this council, I think you mentor them without even knowing it because you lead by example. You have that ability to how you lead the city, and you just tend to be the person, whether you acknowledge it or not at the time, that everybody's looking to you as an example of how things should be done and done right. And I hope we can try to come as a group and carry on and carry that forward as we go into the future. But that's a big hole to fill that you're leaving. Appreciate you very much.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
All right. I don't like getting very emotional, but I do have a few kind words to say about Joe. When I met Joe and worked with him on the city council, I realized that he was brilliant, that he really knew his stuff. I realized that he read every word of every packet before each meeting. And that is something that's to be commended, but it speaks to his diligence and the effort that he puts into grinding things out doing it the right way. One of the best moves that Joe ever made was marrying Sharon Borton, who is deserving of just as much praise for the beautiful family that they built together. And I have no doubt that she is one of the secrets behind his tremendous success. I apologize for the many road trips I have interrupted with my pesky phone calls asking for advice. Joe is a genuine person. He has a huge heart, and he has done more to help me learn how to do city council than anyone else. He's always provided that advice, always willing to listen. His fingerprints are all over everything that we do, every process the city council has at this point, whether it's reviewing the budget, whether it's how we go about different things. A lot of it has to do with Joe's relentless focus on having the right process to get the right outcomes. The final thing that I'll say that I appreciate about Joe, unlike many politicians, Joe is someone I can say he has guts. And he stands up for things when he really believes in them and when they're important. And everything is not just a political calculation for Joe. Joe really cares about doing the right thing. And he decided that he loved having his family raised in this community. He wanted this community to be the best that it could be. And I appreciate that about him. So thank you. You will be the best judge Idaho has ever seen. And we're lucky to keep having you serve our community, but I just really appreciate you and your whole family. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
past year and a half, this is weird. Love you. And this whole thing is just weird. But in the past year and a half, I have found that there is a pathway between voicing gratitude and the waterworks that come from here. So the good news is that means I will probably be relatively brief, but it also means brief is subjective. I wrote some notes because as I've learned from a good friend, you only get one shot at this. And Joe's an inspiration. He's an inspiration to all of us. And as I was thinking about today and not looking forward to it, I started to think about what is it about Joe that inspires me? And it's four things. First, it is his integrity. Joe has more integrity in his pinky than most people have in their whole life, except for maybe when it comes to poker, but that's a conversation for another day. But up here as a council leader, you lead with integrity, which speaks to, I think, number two, which is honor. And it's fitting that that's what you'll be referred to moving forward is your honor. Being on a council, for some people is a thing they just do, or that they look at it as a stepping stone for something else. But Joe served with honor. It wasn't a job, it was the job. And I saw that from day one, and it's fitting that we've heard as people thought about running for city council, they talked to you. I was one of those as well, and you lead with honor, and you're an example for all of us. Third is probably the biggest one, which is service. We serve. We don't just serve here, we serve in many different facets outside of this building. And I just admire your service to our community as a council member, but your service to our community as a coach and as a mentor and as a business leader. It's always exciting when you're out campaigning and you knock a door that's got a Borton for City Council sign in the yard, because you know these people have a story they want to share about the impact that Joe has made on their life. Often not as a city council member, but as a coach or a community leader. The fourth one. His family. It's great that so many of the Bortons are here. Some of you don't know, we had a little event for Joe today that he was roughly about 45 to 50 minutes late. And it caused some worry. And so I was fortunate, I texted Mrs. B and said, hey, have you seen Joe? And it just provided a unique opportunity to to thank the Bortons for sharing Joe with us. And I don't just thank your family, I thank you, Joe, for the impact you've had on the Cavanagh family. the mayor talked today about the many people in our community that have benefited from Joe's advice, both council advice and legal advice, and the Kavanagh family has benefited from both. And there's a debt of appreciation that I'll never be able to fully repay, but I'll try. Which brings me to the part that I'm excited about is you're going to this new job and you have been an inspiration to me. And I thought it would be fitting to pass some things along to you that may serve as an inspiration in your new role. And it's hard to shop for a guy who has everything, but I'm going to try. So the first is I have a autographed Judge Wapner in the photo. Now, it doesn't include a certificate of authenticity, but eBay seller Faustino's dad has assured me that it is legit. So I'll have that for you. In addition, I'm excited. I didn't know that this existed. A mint condition Judge Mills Lane trading card. I'm sure highly sought after. This is important. Again, you start to run out of Judge things, but a Judge Dredd action figure. Again, I think also probably a collector's edition item. Terminator 2 Judgment Day on Blu-ray. I thought that's something good to have. And then I love your shirts, and there's not really a good Judge shirt, so I thought a Judge Reinhold t-shirt would be nice under the robe. And so these are all for you, but I have one more thing, and I didn't talk to the mayor, and our parks director is not here, but from time to time, we've had the opportunity to recognize community leaders. We have Roundtree Field at Fuller's, and of course, the great Keith Bird Legacy Park. But there's nobody on our council that has been more of a friend of the feline community than Mr. Borton. And Mayor, I apologize, I didn't talk to you about this, but I think it is important that we have a cat park in Meridian. You've been a champion for that, and I'm excited to announce that we came in under budget, but I have for you, as my token of appreciation, the Joseph W. Borton mobile cat park. So you can actually take this with you everywhere you go. And Cat, there's lots of activities and fun projects. And I just thank you so much for your impact on our community. And I know that you will display this proudly in your home for years to come. Maybe pass it down to my way of saying thank you for all you do. That will very quickly land in the recycling.
Love it. Oh, Governor.
Anything else, Mr. Kavanagh?
No, the plaque is removable. That's an important feature, so you can put that wherever you. Correct. It's a safety feature. No, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments, and I appreciate you all indulging me a little bit this evening.
Well, I don't know if we can top that. I don't know what everyone's complaining about. No one's worked harder to get him off of this council than I have during those last 8 months or so. I've had an opportunity to speak 3 times about Joe, once in an employee meeting, something without the community upstairs. But I do think that there's one thing that I don't know that anybody but you has heard me say. And it's a little long in that context, and I don't think I'll be emotional. But, when Joe mentioned that this was something he was interested in doing, pursuing the district court judge route, I wrote a letter to the governor outlining that. And while there's going to be some stuff that's going to be a little off tangent, I still think it holds true. And I would like the rest of the council to at least hear, and I've not changed any words. So these are the words. I'm writing in support of Joe Borton's candidacy to be appointed as the district court judge to the 4th Judicial District. I trust the vetting process conducted by the State of Idaho Judicial Council has shown Joe to be a top candidate with the knowledge, skills, and abilities, as well as the temperament, integrity, and independence to serve the public as a member of the judiciary. Joe believes in taking the conservative approach, is a true and dedicated public servant, and is my highest recommendation. The people of the state of Idaho would be well serviced by having him in this role. For the more than 15 years I have known Joe, all of what I stated in my May 1st, 2023 letter to the Executive Director of the Judicial Council and the selection panel holds dear to me. Joe has continued to grow his skills as a lawyer, public servant, and father. Joe's worked with a large variety of clients, cases, and issues. I know this because of the multitude of friends, acquaintances, and professional organizations who choose to utilize him as their attorney. He works tirelessly for those who have needs which are crucial to families, and he understands the importance of the law. He ensures the public is protected as he advises local government clients to keep them free from legal challenges. And Joe gives his time freely to multitudes of nonprofit organizations so they can use their limited financial resources to best carry out their mission. Throughout his years as a member of the Meridian City Council, Joe has been a champion for fair and timely deliberations on all matters, bringing an impartial perspective. In land use matters before the City Council, Joe listens to all testimony, questions, and comments. He identifies areas of concern that can be addressed and articulates a path forward under the confines of statute. By correctly applying legal standard before the City Council, he's able to help the city move forward in its decision-making process for the quasi-judicial role. He does so by making sure the actions are reflected by the record that has been presented. Further, Joe is a conservative voice and strong champion for openness and transparency in government process. It was in 2007, with one of my first interactions with Joe as an employee of the city, that I first had the opportunity to work with him while he was serving as City Council President. It was in this role that I first experienced Joe's judicial temperament and thought process. Specifically, I witnessed the value and importance he puts on listening to understand and asking questions to clarify, values that Joe has only refined and made stronger over his tenure. Over the years, Joe Borton has taught me many things by applying the principles I know he adheres to in his practice in life. He taught me how to take time and listen to others. He's taught me to trust the process. He's taught me how to serve my community. What I know is that if I ever need an attorney, Joe would be my first call. If I ever needed someone to mediate a situation, Joe would be the best person for the job. And if I ever had to end up before the court, Joe's the person I'd want to have presiding over my case. Once again, I want to thank the State of Idaho Judicial Council for their vetting process, blah, 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 blah. For these reasons, I encourage you to appoint Joe Borton as the next district court, the 4th Judicial District of Idaho. That all remains more true than you realize. And it's been a pleasure having you up here, wherever you've been in this community, helping out and lending your voice. But appreciate you more than you know. The floor is yours.
Let's do another round. Just start on the end. Let's just keep it going. Gosh, these are the best. Let me first, for those here and watching online, Councilman Cavanagh referenced it. I'm glad you did, Luke. My wife Sharon is here. I love you. Thanks for coming. My oldest son Jack and his fiancee Lauren are here, so thank you for coming. It's great to have friends and family present at the end of this. I've got a good photo of my first swearing in, and the boys were maybe waist high, and now they're grown adults and back in the Treasure Valley. So I guess I'll be really brief. I promise, I'll try. I won't promise. But let me be brief. I've got an ask and an opportunity, is what I thought about. And the ask is more to everyone in the room. I appreciate you being here and folks that are online that may watch. And here's the ask is there's lots of opportunity in your community, in your church, in school board meetings, or wherever you encounter the community where people will blanket complain or question or disparage government. That government has to be bad or it's wasteful or it's dumb or it's corrupt or something like that. But you have up here some of the greatest, kindest, most thoughtful, dedicated public servants. And anytime I get the question or comment where somebody says something about government that is just a blanket statement, that tries to disparage it, I speak up. My ask is to speak up. If somebody ever says to you that local government doesn't work or it's wasteful or dumb or anything like that, speak up. The folks that know people up here, tell them it's not the case. Because you know folks, you know Ann Little Roberts, good council member. Tell them about Ann. Tell them how, if you need any questions or concerns regarding public safety and someone who's dedicated to make sure you wonder why your community's safe, go talk to Ann Little Roberts. You want to understand why they've got perspective. The council up here has perspective on what happens, decisions, and how they have long-term effects and how they consider that. Talk to John Overton. There is a wealth of great talent and love for the community up here. If you want to talk about love for the community, talk to Councilman Cavanagh. I wouldn't say he loves the community. I would probably say he's in love with the community. Councilman Cavanagh gets emotional because he cares so much about all the employees and making this the best city ever. Doesn't happen by chance. You question local government, talk to Doug Taylor. He's brand new, and he's dived into it with perfect perspective, great temperament, asking the right questions, trying to make sure it's the right decision, not coming in thinking there's a problem and he's got a solution, but try to understand it. That's a great servant leader. You want to understand how our city remains debt-free and maintains a strong budget, the best in the state. You've got folks like Councilwoman Liz Strader, who knows the numbers and takes the time to make sure that things are done correctly with a long-term focus. None of that happens by chance. So I always speak up when someone ever were to question government and disparage it and say, no, you've got it wrong. Maybe in DC, maybe down in Boise at the Capitol, maybe. But I tell you what, not in Meridian. You don't know these folks. So welcome those questions. If anyone questions local government, and speak up. That's my ask. Tell people about the blessings that I've had serving with all of you and the folks that came before. The comments for the people that I'm leaving, I have a confession to make. But over 14 years, when mayors leave and council members leave, I, in essence, grieve for a bit. I get sad and I grieve because you can tell the relationships up here are professional, but they're also personal. We form a close bond and a close tie, so it's hard, and I've gone through a lot of them. And it takes time, and I worry, what happens when that individual leaves? How are we going to go on? And what I've figured is a way I coped through it, and I'll leave you with this, is I think of it more like an opportunity. When somebody leaves, a mayor or a council member in Meridian, the folks that remain have an opportunity. And that opportunity is to let things slide, to kind of allow things to kind of degrade a little bit, not pay attention as much, whether to a budget, maybe not focus on long-term planning, maybe try to, make short-term efforts. You have an opportunity to relax your standards, to relax the bar that you set for yourself. And that's what would always scare me, because I know there's the opportunity when someone leaves to do that, to relax, and to not be as great as you want to be. But you also have the opportunity when someone leaves, and I'm no different, to fill the void by being better. And it kind of forces you to revisit your commitment to the long-term commitment that you make to be a good council member. Make your decisions focusing on the process and the plan and the good work that leads to the decisions we make. We talk many times about the success that our city has, the reason it's, our police and fire. Thank you, fellas, for being here, by the way. I really appreciate that. That doesn't happen by chance. I think these are long-term decisions. You have success today because of things that happened 10, 20 years ago. So the diligence and the energy to exert, I call it an opportunity,
to fill that void and remain focused on those long-term commitments. Don't worry about what people might be mad about in 10 or 20 weeks or 10 or 20 months. Focus on the decision that's right in 10 and 20 years when we're all gone. So that's what gives me comfort. That's what makes me feel like there couldn't be a better time for me to go on my next journey, because you've got the best council members up here, diverse in their experience, diverse in their perspective, diverse in their backgrounds and skill sets. And you've got a mayor who has the courage to lead like a dad in a way that might be grumpy and might make decisions that aren't popular, right? But his job's not to be popular and liked by everybody. His job is to be a steward of the city. And Mayor, you do it well. And it's hard. And you take arrows. You do. But, you know, leaders take arrows. And so I appreciate your perspective and leadership doing that. Easy to criticize, hard to lead. So I think you're doing a fantastic job. And so I feel comfortable and very confident that when you all think of the opportunity you have, you're going to fill my absence. You won't skip a beat, so long as you remain diligent on that long-term focus on planning and process. And Meridian's going to continue to succeed. So it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to be a part of it. I'm thankful. And you, like me, but you all sacrifice time from your families, right? You've got kiddos and husbands and wives and everybody that you leave every Tuesday to come down here and do all this. So I thank you all for that sacrifice as well, and to your family, because it's a lot. So Meridian is in good hands. The timing is perfect. I will miss you dearly. I miss this nerdy process of local government. I love it as much as I did day one. So, and thank you all for the kind words. That really means a lot. It really does. Gives me things to pause and kind of reflect on, and lots of ways we can choose to spend our time. And the fact that we all choose to spend it up here together trying to make our community better is pretty special to me. So I've been blessed to raise a family in the greatest city in the state. So I'm forever in your debt. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Call a 5-minute recess. stay here. All right, we'll go ahead and come back from recess and move on to item 5, which is a public hearing for Watts Meridian Medical Partners, SHP 2024-0001. We will open this public hearing with staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The first application before you tonight is a request for a short plat. This site consists of 2.53 acres of land. It's zoned CG and is located at 1256 South Rackham Way. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is mixed use regional. The short plat proposed consists of 2 building lots on 2.53 acres of land in the CG zoning district for Watts Meridian Medical Partners subdivision. Access is proposed from South Rackham Way, an existing local street along the west boundary of the site, and from the drive aisle at the east boundary of the site. A 25-foot wide cross-access easement is depicted along the shared lot line between lots 1 and 2 for shared access between the 2 lots. Staff is recommending this drive aisle is constructed in its entirety with the first phase of development. ACHD is requiring pavement widening for South Rackham Way and construction of curb, gutter, and sidewalk. No additional right-of-way is needed. A detached sidewalk is proposed along the northern boundary of the site along Flatiron Lane. Curb, gutter, and an attached sidewalk is proposed along the southern boundary of the site, abutting the proposed drive aisle, and curb and gutter is proposed along the eastern boundary of the site adjacent to the existing drive aisle. A 10-foot wide street buffer is required along South Rackham Way, landscaped in accord with UDC standards. A 50-foot wide permanent access easement crosses the southwest corner of the site as depicted on the plat, and that is this area right here. It was recorded with the previous plat that includes this property. Staff had recommended this easement be amended or partially vacated in accord with the proposed plat. However, the applicant states they are unable to do so because it's a dual-purpose easement that also contains a gas line for Intermountain Gas Company that runs through the southwest corner of the site that will provide gas to both of the future buildings. The gas company is unwilling to amend or vacate their easement. For this reason, staff recommends removal of conditions number 3C and 6 pertaining to amendment or partial vacation of this easement. Staff further recommends deletion of the comments pertaining to additional right-of-way dedication in conditions 3A and 4A, as additional right-of-way is not required by ACHD. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed short plat with the aforementioned deletions. Written testimony was received from Adam Watts, the applicant, in response to the staff report, and he is online tonight if you have some questions. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Council, any questions for staff?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Taylor.
not a question for staff, but just a disclosure. I did not know it at the time, but I do have a relationship with the applicant from 10 years plus when I lived in Virginia. We played on the same basketball team, but consulted with our good attorney and found just disclosing it is enough. We don't have an existing relationship in terms of communication on any of these topics. So I don't think it will affect any of my decision-making.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
Thank you. Sonia, thank you. I just wanted to check with the drive aisle recommendation. Is that something that the applicant has accepted and it's already within the condition of approval, or does that need to be spelled out if we decide that that's something important to add?
Mr. Mayor, Vice President Strader, are you referring to the traffic backing out into the drive aisle, the comment and the analysis, or are you referring to a condition of approval?
There's a recommendation from staff to ensure that the first phase of development includes the construction of the drive aisle. I'm just trying to narrow in on whether that requires a change in the conditions.
That is a condition of approval that exists, and the applicant is in agreement with that condition.
Perfect. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any additional questions for staff? Okay, then would the applicant like to, looks like they've unmuted themselves. You're recognized for up to 15 minutes.
Thanks, council members, for spending your time tonight, and thanks for letting me and everybody else listen in. That was quite the homage to the president there. I've never seen that, so must be quite a guy. Let me first start off saying that Councilmember Taylor is an excellent ball player, and yes, it's been probably 12 years since we played ball together. So. Anyway, yes, so this is the short plat in front of you. We've spent a lot of time going back and forth. Sonia's been fantastic in helping us kind of digest and put everything together that we feel like is a great development here. We have met with ACHD a few times. We've met all of their requirements, as she has stated. We are okay with building that drive aisle access with phase one. In fact, it's needed, and we're happy to do that. I don't have any other kind of updates for you. I'm here to answer any questions that you have, but we've spent a lot of time trying to get this right and get this in front of you guys here tonight.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the applicant besides who is a better player?
Mr. Mayor, it was me. However, Adam was a very good three-point shooter.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Adam. Mr. Clerk, we have anyone sign up on this item?
Mr. Mayor, no.
Okay, we had no one sign up. Is there anybody present that would like to provide testimony on this item, or if you're online, use the raise your hand feature? Seeing no one online or raising their hand, the applicant like any final comments, or do they waive?
No further comments. Thank you.
Okay. Waives final. So council, what's your disposition? And if you like, we could phone a friend. He's not that far away.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
I hope we don't have to do that. I'm sure that would be an ominous sign for him for the coming years. I think we'll manage. It's made good sense to me. It seems to fit well with the area. I think it's a good short plat. It feels like most of the issues have been ironed out. Happy to make a motion unless someone else has a concern or a question. Perfect. Mr. Mayor, I move that we close a public hearing.
Motion is second to close the public hearing. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The public hearing is closed.
Fantastic. Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number SHP 2024-001 as presented in the staff report for today's hearing date with a couple of quick modifications. We'll go ahead and remove conditions 3C and 6 pertaining to the vacation of the easement, as well as conditions 3A and 4A, as those conditions no longer pertain to this application. They're not required by ACHD. And it sounds like the drive aisle construction in phase one has already been agreed to by the applicant and within the conditions. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, may I make one
Hey,
clarification?
1 second. Can I get a second? Second. Motion is second. Sonia.
Staff did not recommend conditions 3A and 4A be stricken in their entirety, only the portions pertaining to additional right-of-way possibly being needed.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
Yeah, I amend my motion to reflect that it only pertains to the additional right-of-way.
I thought that's what you meant. So second agrees.
Second agrees. Okay. Have a motion, a second. Is there discussion on the motions?
Mr. Mayor,
On the motion?
always thank staff for keeping us right and focused, so appreciate that.
All right, then with that, ask clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts.
Aye.
Taylor.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
Strader.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. The item is agreed to. Okay. With that, we'll move on to item 6, which is a public hearing continued from March 12th, 2024 for Avani Neighborhood H 2023-0049. We will continue this public hearing with any comments from staff.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. This application was continued, and during the March 12th hearing, City Council directed staff to prepare the conditions of approval and findings for the scheduled hearing of today, April 2nd, 2024, and the applicant has sent a response that they are in agreement with those conditions. Also, since the last hearing, we did receive written testimony from one letter on 3/15/2024 from Gail Simpson with concerns with Meridian having the infrastructure to deal with more traffic, schools, and/or businesses. And that concludes staff's presentation for tonight, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions for staff? Okay. Would the applicant like to make any comments? Applicant is there if you would like to make questions, but not asking to make any at this time. Okay. Anybody from the public would like to provide testimony on the information provided? Seeing none, does the applicant waive any final comments? Applicant waives any final comments? Council, what's your direction?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
we close the public hearing on item 6.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on item 6. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the public hearing is closed.
Sure.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Move we approve item 6, application H-2023-0049 as presented and include all staff comments.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item H 2023-0049. Is there discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
Yeah, just I will be a no vote this evening, and it's just my convictions around the project not being within the 10-mile specific area plan. I normally actually, when we get to this phase, would just vote with the project, considering it's, kind of going that direction, but I do feel very strongly about this particular one. And I want my vote to be reflected that way. So that's why I'm voting that way. It's nothing personal, and I do hope that you guys are very successful with it. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Taylor.
a comment. As I was reviewing the notes from the hearing, I went and watched some of it. I did want to, again, reiterate, I really appreciate Bill and Stacy and the staff, the advice that they gave. I think they did exactly what we had asked them to do. I think as we considered this application, I think it was one of those situations where it was council's decision to kind of weigh in with our different perspectives on kind of how we thought this would go. So again, and I agree, I hope the applicants are successful. I agree with Councilwoman Schrader, and I think it's a good project. I'm encouraged by what we're seeing out there. I know there's a lot of work to be done, and I know as we consider what kinds of policies we adopt as a city and how we want to see things grow, I think those are also subject to modifications, updates, changes in a way that we think best reflect the situation on the ground. So again, I think it was a healthy debate. I think it was a good discussion. And I think it was our former good council member Borton who said, I can't remember if he said it right in the hearing or right after that, the process, or maybe it was you, Mayor, maybe I'll give you the credit. You said the process worked the way it should, even though we found ourselves in a situation where we were voting against the recommendations of the staff, but yet the process worked. And I think that was a really good reflection of kind of where we are as a city and staff and everything. So I wish the applicant well on this, and I think it's a good project. I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Ask clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts.
Aye.
Taylor.
Aye.
Overton.
I'll have to abstain.
Strader.
No.
3 ayes, 1 no, and abstain. Motion passes and the item is approved. Okay. With that, we'll move on to item 7, which is findings of fact conclusion of law for Avani Neighborhood H 2023-0049.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Cavanagh.
I move we approve item number 7, H-2023-0049.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 7. Is there any discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh. Little Roberts.
Aye.
Taylor.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
Strater.
No.
Four ayes, 1 no, and the item is agreed to. Thank you very much. Okay, council, anything under future meeting topics or a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Schrader.
unless there is a juicy future meeting topic, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Motion adjourned. All in favor, signify by saying aye.